My brother-in-law slammed me against the wall so hard my vision went black, his fists raining down until I tasted blood. And while I begged for help, my own sister screamed at me, blaming me for ruining everything because of a mortgage I never even signed. In that moment, I collapsed on the cold floor, choking on tears and humiliation, with neighbors watching through the windows. Even the cops who finally showed up froze, their faces pale as if they had walked into something far darker than a family fight. Before I take you further into this story, make sure you hit that subscribe button, share this video, and keep watching till the end, because the twists ahead will leave you breathless. My name is Megan, and all I ever wanted was peace. But in my family, peace was a crime. My sister Jessica always acted like she was better than me. She married Mason, a man who wore expensive suits and drove luxury cars. To them, I was the poor sister, the one who still lived in a small apartment and worked long shifts just to keep the lights on. What they didn't know was the storm I had been hiding for years. It all started when Mason came to me one night with papers in his hand. "Sign this for Jessica," he said, shoving the documents at me. "It's just a formality for the new mortgage." His smile was sharp, like he already knew I wouldn't dare refuse. But I refused. And that one decision turned my life into a nightmare. Jessica screamed at me in front of everyone, accusing me of trying to destroy her marriage. Mason threatened me, his voice dripping with venom. And then, the blows came. I remember the sound of my ribs cracking, the carpet burning my skin as I fell. But what no one realized was that in that exact moment, while I lay there beaten and blamed, I was holding on to a secret that could turn their entire world upside down, and when the truth came out, the same people who laughed at me would wish they had never raised their voices. Jessica's voice still echoes in my head. "You've always been jealous of me, Megan. You want to ruin my life because you have nothing." Her words cut deeper than Mason's fists. I wanted to scream that I had never asked for any of this, that I had worked hard for every dollar I owned while she was busy playing the perfect wife. But instead, I lay there on the floor, coughing blood, watching the police step inside. The cops tried to separate us, but Mason twisted the story before I could even speak. "She's lying. She tried to steal from us. She's obsessed with our money and our house." His voice dripped with fake pain, his hand clutching his chest as if he were the victim. Jessica nodded furiously, tears streaming down her cheeks, pointing at me like I was a criminal. The neighbors whispered outside, their phones recording, their faces hungry for drama. In that moment, I wasn't just humiliated, I was destroyed. In front of everyone, but what they didn't know was that I wasn't the helpless Megan they thought I was. For years, I had been saving quietly, working 2 jobs, investing in things no one in my family even understood. Jessica mocked me for staying single, called me pathetic for not having a husband to provide for me. But what she didn't realize was that I had built something of my own, something powerful, something that made Mason's mortgage problem look like pocket change. The cops looked uneasy. One of them finally crouched beside me, his voice low. "Ma'am, do you want to press charges?" My lips trembled, but instead of answering, I whispered, "Check the documents in Mason's bag." Everyone froze. Jessica's eyes widened, Mason's face went white. He tried to protest, but the officer pulled the crumpled papers out. And there it was, proof that Mason had tried to forge my signature, proof that he had dragged me into his dirty debt scheme. Jessica gasped, her perfect little world cracking before her eyes. But instead of admitting the truth, she turned on me again. "You set him up. You knew about this, didn't you?" Her desperation filled the room, but I just sat there, broken body and all, holding back a smile. Because this was only the beginning. They thought they could beat me, humiliate me, and bury me in lies. But they had no idea what else I was hiding. And when I revealed it, their empire of pride and money would collapse in front of everyone. Mason's face twisted in rage as the officer read the papers out loud. Mortgage request under Megan's name, forged signature. The room turned heavy, every breath sharp with tension. Jessica grabbed the officer's arm, shouting, "No. That's a mistake. Megan's trying to frame us." But her voice cracked, her confidence slipping with every word. The crowd outside pressed closer to the windows, their whispers louder. Their cameras pointed like weapons. I pushed myself up from the floor, every muscle screaming in pain, but my voice came out steady. "For years you called me poor, useless, a burden. But Mason, you couldn't even afford your own house without trying to use me." His jaw clenched. For the first time, he didn't have a slick response ready. The officer's partner spoke sharply. "Sir, forging documents is a crime. You could face prison time for this." Mason snapped, "You don't understand. She owes us. Everything we have, we gave her." His lies spilled faster than his fists ever could, but no one was buying it now. Even Jessica's tears looked forced, as if she knew the foundation of her perfect marriage was crumbling in front of everyone. I took a slow breath, my ribs aching, and looked directly at my sister. "You think I wanted your money? Your luxury cars? Your fake marriage?" "Jessica, while you were busy showing off on Instagram, I was building something real. I stayed silent because I never needed your approval. But tonight, you'll see who really holds the power." Her lips parted, panic flickering in her eyes. What do you mean?" The truth was, I had been working behind the scenes for years. Every insult they threw at me fueled me to save harder, invest smarter, and grow quietly. My boss once laughed when I said I was learning about real estate. Jessica mocked me for buying cheap little properties instead of new handbags. But what they didn't know was that those cheap little properties had grown into something far bigger. The officer looked at me curiously. "Miss, do you have evidence to support your claim?" I nodded slowly, pulling a flash drive from my torn jacket pocket. My heart pounded, but I handed it to him with steady hands. "Everything's on there. The deeds, the transfers, every piece of proof. And when you plug it in, you'll see who really owns the house Mason is trying to mortgage." Jessica gasped so loudly it silenced the room. Mason lunged toward me, but the officers restrained him, pinning him against the wall. His voice cracked with rage. "You wouldn't dare. That house is ours. You're lying." I wiped the blood from my lips and whispered, just loud enough for everyone to hear, "No, Mason. It's mine." The crowd outside exploded with gasps, phones raised higher. Jessica's knees buckled, her hand clutching the doorframe as if the world around her was collapsing. Mason's face turned pale, his body thrashing against the officer's grip. But it was too late. The truth had already slipped out, and once the proof was revealed, nothing could stop what was coming next, because the house, the mortgage, and even their precious lifestyle were sitting in my name. The officer plugged in the flash drive right there on his laptop, the room buzzing with whispers and heavy breaths. Jessica clung to Mason's arm, her manicured nails digging into his sleeve as if she could hold their collapsing life together. The screen lit up with documents, and silence swallowed the room. One by one, the titles appeared: Property Deed 145 Maple Drive. Property Deed 612 Oak Avenue. Property Deed 19 Westbrook Lane. The officer raised his brows. "Miss, these are all in your name." He scrolled further, his voice tightening with disbelief. "These aren't small properties. These are commercial buildings. Apartments. Even this very house." Jessica's scream tore through the air, raw and panicked. "No. That can't be true. That house is ours, my father helped us get it." But the documents told a different story. The mortgage Mason had been desperate to push through was under my ownership. They weren't losing their dream home. They were living in mine. Mason's mask shattered. His voice cracked like glass. "You tricked us. You set this up." I straightened, every ache in my body fueling my words. "No, Mason. While you were busy drinking and gambling, while Jessica mocked me for not being successful, I was building my empire brick by brick. Every insult made me work harder. Every humiliation made me sharper. And tonight, in front of all these people, the truth finally came out." The neighbors outside were no longer whispering, they were cheering. Some even laughed, recording Mason's red, trembling face. Jessica's perfect image was crumbling with every camera flash. Her mascara ran down her cheeks, her sobs turning into hiccups of disbelief. The officer turned to Mason, his tone firm. "Sir, you attempted fraud and assault. You'll be coming with us tonight." The cuffs clicked around Mason's wrists, and the crowd gasped in satisfaction. He thrashed, screaming, "You'll regret this, Megan. You'll regret ever crossing me." But it wasn't me who looked like the fool anymore. It was him, dragged out of his own front yard in handcuffs, while the entire neighborhood watched. Jessica stumbled after him, her heels scraping the pavement, screaming his name. But when the patrol car door slammed shut, she was left standing alone, surrounded by people who once envied her, now watching her fall. I stood in the doorway, bruised but unbroken. For years, you called me poor. Tonight, you leave my house with nothing. Jessica collapsed to her knees as Mason was dragged away, but instead of breaking, her eyes flared with hate. You think you've won, Megan? You don't deserve any of it. I stepped closer, my voice calm but cutting. Jessica, you had everything: love, money, respect. And you lost it all trying to destroy me. While you were pretending to be perfect, I was becoming unstoppable. She staggered back, her lips trembling, but I didn't stop. You called me poor. You called me useless. But tonight, everyone here saw the truth. You lost your husband to his own lies, your house to my name, and your dignity to your own arrogance. The crowd erupted, gasps, murmurs, some even clapping. Jessica spun around, her pride crumbling as reality crushed her. She tried to scream something back, but her voice cracked, breaking under the weight of humiliation. I turned toward the officers still at the scene, lifting my chin. I want her trespassed from this property. Effective immediately. The officer nodded, his pen scratching against the notepad. Done. Jessica's eyes widened. You can't do this. I'm your sister. I met her gaze one last time. Steady and unshaken. No, Jessica. Sisters protect each other. You chose to betray me. And now, you're nothing more than a stranger standing on my lawn. Her knees buckled, her sobs drowning in the roar of the crowd. And with that, she was escorted off the property she once bragged about owning. As I stepped back inside, bruised but unbroken, a strange calm washed over me. This wasn't just revenge, it was freedom. For the first time in years, I wasn't the shadow, the outcast, or the poor sister. I was the woman who turned every insult into fuel, every betrayal into fire, and every humiliation into victory. And as the door closed behind me, I whispered to myself the truth that had carried me through it all. They mocked me for being poor. Tonight, they walked out of my house with nothing.